The region of Skellige is a big part of the reason that I love The Witcher 3 as much as I do. Playing through Skellige was a special experience for me. After the decay and depression of Velen and the classism and corruption of Novigrad, being in the gorgeous Nordic islands, surrounded by snow-capped mountains, pine forests, and sea, it was like a dark cloud that had been following me around on the mainland had been lifted. This isn't to say that the mainland segments weren't brilliantly designed, because if you watch the first two parts of the series, you know that I think they were amazingly crafted. However, Skellige was just incredibly liberating in relation to the rest of Witcher 3. There's plenty of darkness, plotting, and sadness in Skellige, don't get me wrong, but my overall impression of the land is one of peace, culture, and beauty, which was a welcome change after Velen and Novigrad. It's just entirely foreign. The monsters are different, the land is different, and the themes integrated with the narrative sections of Skellige are related to honor, pride, and tradition, which are untapped concepts and totally unique to the game at the point where you reach Skellige. It's hard for me to describe Skellige. It's very spiritual, almost like a getaway, a place of respite. This is partly due to how beautiful it is geographically and visually, but also thanks to the tradition-driven natives. Skellige is a region that feels detached. It is extremely consistent in terms of lore and sense of world building to the rest of the Witcher universe, but tonally and thematically it is so different. It is a magnificent setting, and I'm going to try and do my best to describe what makes it so good. Skellige is far from a peaceful setting on the political side of things. The Isles are divided into powerful groups and families called clans, and the leaders, or jarls, of these clans are constantly trying to come out on top by trying to make attempts at winning Skellige's throne. As such, there's rivalry, scheming, plotting, backstabbing, even violence thanks to Skellige politics. Yet, somehow, some way, when all is said and done, the vast majority of Skelligers, with the exception of Madman Lugos, have no problem sharing hunting stories over a horn of ale. The clans are not all united, but at the end of the day, I was personally struck with a sense that all of Skellige is indeed in it together. Maybe I'm wrong, but I just got the impression that it's them against the world, particularly against the Nilfgaardians. There's plenty of infighting and backstabbing, and it's even taken to the extremes of violence, but this is tradition on Skellige, and never spirals too far out of control when Burna Bran isn't involved. After all, a Skellige saying holds that at a good feast, blood and mead flow in equal measure. This violence is actually ingrained in tradition. It's a byproduct of the political process, and this is just the way things are. It always has been. In the end, no matter what, there is always order. Most of Skellige sees the bigger picture, and it is a much more harmonious land because of this. This harsh and brutal, yet simultaneously traditional and ironically stable political situation went a long way towards contributing to Skellige's tone. Now, Skellige has some incredibly dark and tragic moments, and plenty of the quests display some pretty terrible things. The thing is, when looking back on my Skellige experience, I didn't really linger on the certain evils the land held. One of the most tragic story beats in the game, the story of Skjal, happens in Skellige, and even that doesn't come to mind when I first think of the land. When I think of Skellige, I focus on the tranquility, the simple beauty of it, whether it be happy or sad. This is thanks to many things, the first of which is the most simple, Skellige's aesthetic beauty. This region is without doubt the prettiest The Witcher 3's main story had to offer. It's breathtaking. Secondly, as I mentioned a minute ago, thanks to the compromisingly peaceful nature of Skellige politics, there is no real fear or tension in the air as you travel to the many portside villages of the Isles. Even if a possible war with Nilfgaard is on the horizon, the citizens' outlook on that war is one of confidence. one of pride and positivity, in sharp contrast to the anxiety of Novograd's inhabitants. Thanks to this, the atmosphere is almost carefree. Thirdly, the music for Skellige is phenomenal. Not much has to be said here, except that the gorgeous Gaelic and Celtic-inspired ballads that play on Skellige inspire feelings of peace and simultaneously contribute to the authenticity of the region's traditional feel and the tranquil atmosphere of the land. Additionally, the economic situation in Skellige is far healthier and more stable than anywhere in Novograd or Velen. It isn't too top-heavy, there aren't beggars on the roads. The economic situation isn't perfect, and not every Skellige native lives in absolute comfort, but you'd be hard-pressed to find anyone living in absolute poverty in Skellige, which is pretty incredible for The Witcher. Lastly and most importantly, the people of Skellige literally make the tone work. The Skelligers are honorable, bold, vibrant, and full of pride for their homeland. You can hardly walk through one small village without a clan guardsman professing his pride for Skellige. The people live hard and drink hard. They yell and laugh and love. They are so focused on honor, and in a realistic game like this fixation on honor sometimes goes a bit too far, leading to some insane situations where the Skelligers go to incredible ends to prove their honor. But aside from that, there's just a positivity projecting off of even the non-important NPCs in Skellige that's really special. It's also important to note that during the Skellige portion of the game, Geralt is finally reunited with Yennefer for good. Now, while I love Triss for how endearing and loyal she can be, it is beyond clear to me that Yennefer is Geralt's soulmate. Geralt coming to the welcoming land of Skellige and being able to see Yennefer again is almost like coming home for a man who has no home. You can just see subtle little changes in Geralt's body language and demeanor when he is with Yen. He cracks stupid jokes, he poses with statues, he's more laid back, he doesn't take things as seriously. He's at peace, he is happy. And this is a side of Geralt that we unfortunately don't get to see very often. So this little change during the Skellige section is very welcoming. Having Yennefer meet up with Geralt in Skellige was a great choice, because this element of warmness that Geralt feels due to Yennefer combines with Skellige's already peaceful tone seamlessly. Additionally, the druids that call Skellige home just add an extra layer of culture and an element of whimsy that make the setting that much more effective. Overall, these elements help to contribute to Skellige's more lighthearted and spiritual tone. While Skellige is far from an entirely happy place, and would probably be the darkest setting in a game not set in this universe, it is legitimately a joy and a welcome relief to play through relative to the suffering present in the other regions of this universe. And this is because of the wondrous tone that is so well established through so many elements. Skellige is a region that is completely steeped in culture and tradition. Society revolves around tradition that ranges from the heartwarming to the grotesque and disturbing, but the consistency is always there. In video games, there is a danger that in building a region so dependent on a foundation of tradition that it might come off as artificial. However, there are no such problems in The Witcher 3. CD Projekt Red goes the extra mile to achieve world building in Skellige that is almost unfathomable. The books you find, the unique taverns, the eccentricity of the druids, the quirky dialects and the accents of the natives, the little visual cues that give the place a lived-in feeling. Skellige is unequivocally a place that has been there and done that. The generations of Skelligers have repeated tradition again and again, and will do so in the future. This is something that I brushed off initially, but soon came to appreciate fully about Skellige. It is so authentic, both culturally and sociologically. Both Sapkowski, the author of the novels, and CD Projekt Red clearly put so much time and effort into creating Skellige, and it shows. It takes inspiration from Slavic, Nordic, and Gaelic stories and traditions to create a place that feels complete, unique, and genuine, all the while feeling like a true part of the Witcher universe. While the narrative of the Skellige quests contain many of the themes that the Witcher series as a whole likes to explore, there is some uniqueness here. The player almost learns a whole new way of life in Skellige. For example, King Brand's sending off is a moment that occurs right at the beginning of the Skellige section, so the player is likely to be unfamiliar with the land's customs, unless they've read the novels. However, this doesn't matter. The tone, the music, the visuals, and the voice acting all make this scene very poignant and very sacred. The player clearly knows at this point that this is a moment that touches every Skelliger profoundly. They may not understand why, but as they travel Skellige from that point on, the gaps are slowly filled in. This gradual understanding of the quirks of the land is absolutely essential for the game to pull off emotional story moments in Skellige. This is because many of Skellige's quests handle moral issues regarding tradition that would not have been a problem on the mainland. Many of the players cannot relate to the rigid traditions that the Skelliges hold so much value to, but the game does very well at helping us see things from their point of view. Tradition is everything here in Skellige. Society is built off of it. Without it, day-to-day life would almost seem void for these people. We slowly learn this as we travel through Skellige, which makes the quest revolving around foreign tradition versus Geralt's way of thinking very effective. For instance, objectively, a bunch of priestesses crying over a garden that was destroyed because of a life-or-death situation sounds a bit over the top and stupid. But the context of the setting helps us realize the gravity of the situation, and while we may not be able to agree with or relate with the Skelligers so reliant on tradition, we can at least understand them. In any distinct region, and I'm talking about either in real life or The Witcher, society is built around something. And this something is the reason why everyone in the setting acts a certain way. It could be an industry or a crop, an ideal, money, or any number of things, but society always revolves around that certain something. In Velen, society is dependent on anything that will contribute to survival. In Novigrad, society revolves around both where the money goes and the agendas pushed by the Church of the Eternal Fire. Once we get it into our heads that Skellige quite literally revolves around true tradition and honor, it makes it easier to understand why certain Skelligers act the way they do. And the story moments that are based off of this sociological aspect can be absolutely breathtaking. I sincerely hope that I have gotten across the notion that I adore Skellige. It is such a spiritual and sacred setting, so aesthetically, atmospherically, and narratively beautiful. It is unlike anything I've ever experienced in video games, and I'm sure that no video analysis could do it justice. However, I hope that I've made a valiant effort here. Skellige is unique in many ways, though most importantly in its harmonious tone and its thematic ideas deeply rooted in honor and culture. Skellige doesn't have the thick, heavy atmosphere of Velen, or the thought-provoking corruption of Novigrad, but its foreign and detached beauty is unmatched. It is a special place to me, and hopefully it is to you as well. I've never seen a region in a video game in which the people were so clearly emotionally and spiritually intertwined with the land. All of the little aspects I've mentioned here contribute to the depth and believability of Skellige. The lore, inhabitants, music, visuals, societal roots, traditions, politics, and tone, all of it meshes together quite stunningly. And for these reasons, I doubt I'll ever see another setting that's quite like Skellige.